All right. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm your host, Robert Michaels. Glad you are here. I'm fired up tonight. We've got a great show lined up. We're going to be talking about all kinds of good stuff. Want to mention the sponsors first real quick and say thanks to the moderators. Moderators tonight, Anthony Peregringo's with us, Nick Vasakis, Todd Falstad is with us. Sean Nafsker is also in moderation tonight. And so if you have questions, tune those things towards these guys, and we will get your questions and comments in there. We're going to do something special tonight. We're going to do two giveaways, but one of the giveaways is kind of a special one. If you have a student or a new guy that is maybe just started learning, or somebody that is planning on getting training, that you want to nominate, what I'm going to ask you to do is just put their name in the chat somewhere, and I'm going to send them a copy of this DVD, Bound for Glory. This is a Light Touch Films presentation video. This came from Phil Russman, and so we're going to share that with you. So maybe you're selfish and you just say, I want it so I can watch it. Nominate yourself, and then we're going to probably spin the wheel or something like that, give that away, and then we'll probably give away who knows what by the time we get to that. So if you're in the chat, you're talking, your name's getting put in the spinny wheel of winning things. So I'm glad that you're here. So thank you so much for joining us. Paraglidingtalk.com is brought to you by ppgzone.com. Josh Perry has he's cornered the market on social media for paragliding pilots, paramotor pilots. Pretty cool place. Go check it out. Create a profile and join the action. It's really fun. And if you do, say hi, and we will talk to you on there. Actually, I need to log in there. It's been a couple of days since I've been on there. Also, shows brought to you by Midwest Parajet. Go check out their website. That's midwestparajet.com. Also, the show's brought to you by PPG Smoke. Ryan Roberts has created a masterpiece with all kinds of stuff for the flying stuff. We're going to talk about some of his gear tonight, so I'm not going to spend too much time in that commercial. But also, this show's brought to you by paramotorprops.com. Paramotor Props. If you're looking for a great deal on props, go to paramotorprops.com. Best deals on the interweb. Also, the show's brought to you by paraorangeproducts.com or just paraorange.com. They've got all kinds of stuff to protect your gear. Prop covers. They've got weatherproof motor covers. He's got some really great wind socks and poles and streamers. Go check out their website, paraorange.com or paraorangeproducts.com. Tonight, we do have to talk about a couple of sobering situations that happened this week. I'm sad to report 2 different fatalities this week on paramotors. One of those involving water. The other one, we're still not sure exactly what happened, but I don't know either one of these guys. Todd actually knows one of the guys. His name is Ryan Rockow. He's from Grand Junction, Colorado. He had an accident, and he did not survive that accident. He left behind, I believe, 3 kids and a wife. And so just a horrible situation. And it's a stark reality, just a reality check that what we're a part of is dangerous. It should not be taken lightly at any time. I mean, what we do in our sport is incredibly attractive. It is addicting. It is fun. There's all kinds, but we don't have to be doing this. We do this. It's leisure. And we need to take it seriously. It can't be something that we just toy with. And so this is a validation of why we have the show and what we do. Also, another guy in Colorado, 46-year-old Aaron McDaniel from Pueblo. He was flying with another guy. I'm not sure who the other guy was, but they both ended up in the lake somehow. I don't think either one of them had flotation, and one of them got tangled. So Aaron got tangled in his gear and drowned there in that lake. And so
actually, I believe the fellow that survived did in fact have flotation.
Oh, he did have flotation. Okay, that's good to know. And so these details are, I don't have a whole lot of details, but I felt obligated to mention these things and put them on the put this on the top of the topic, because we're all going out. Sometimes we're just out there full steam, 100% of just not caring. And I'm just being honest with you. There are times when I've missed things. I've gone out very hungry to fly, very excited to go and do something, but there are situations that are not forgiving. This sport, you can, mountain biking, you might get away with it. Yeah.
It only takes one thing.
Swimming, kayaking, there's all kinds of sports, and you can be forgiven many of times, but this air sports is not very forgiving. And so I want to talk first about water landings, and there's some things that we can do, and if we will be programmed to react properly, we can potentially thwart drowning, entanglement, and I'm just going to mention the things that I know. If you've got something that you know is a really good thing to add to this, please mention it in the chat, and then we'll bring those things up. The moderation staff's going to find those things and post those. Obviously, they need to make sense. But one of the things that I learned at SIV, if you hit the water, glider shoots out in front of you. There's no sense flying or trying to swim towards the glider. You probably want to keep the tension away from the glider. Something that I learned from multiple guys that did go in the water at our SIV is getting one shoulder out. And this is free flight, so I'm not talking about motors. You're not going to have this opportunity with motors, but with free flight, you take a shoulder strap and you take your one arm out of the shoulder strap, and you use your body to hug the your harness. And so this is something that I watched a couple guys actually do while we were there. And one guy told me about it, and then I watched another guy who actually did it, and it was a game changer for those guys who hit the water. So getting one arm out and then hugging your gear is another thing that will help you. I would obviously recommend, especially if you know that you're going in. A lot of times what's happening with the paramotors is your foot dragging, right? And I get the impression that there was maybe some kind of air turbulence to force these guys to both go in the water. Not sure exactly. Again, these are all speculations. I can imagine maybe they might have been just messing around, doing tip touches on the water, something like that. And all it takes is just a little tiny mistake, and then you're in the water. And this happens very fast, that you've got, let's say 50 to 60 pounds of metal on your back. You're strapped, and if you have a paramotor like mine, you have multiple straps. I have a chest strap. I have the lap strap, and then I also have 2 leg straps. So you got to think about how long does it take you to unstrap those. Now factor in you're underwater, you're disoriented. You might have got slapped in the face by the water, because the first thing that hits is your feet and then your head and body, and that motor is shoving your head down into the water. So the first thing that you get is probably a nose full and a mouth full of water, and it may already take your breath away. It may already affect your breathing. So if you're free flying and you're going to hit the water, let's say you're under reserve, you're at an SIV, you're under reserve, and it's already happening. You already know you're going to go in. Disconnect. Obviously, don't disconnect everything, but disconnect what you can. And then you're going to still need to probably PLF. And the parachute landfall is not just for land. There are going to be times when you're going to be coming down into the water hard enough to jack you up. And I remember hearing some of these guys actually getting hurt hitting the water. even under reserve, you're still coming down. You can talk to some of the guys that have been through SIV. I have not done it yet. Hit the water with the SIV. I didn't want to get my gear wet before going on the airplane. I was my last flight of the day. I cut it short. How do you respond to the water landing? Will determine whether or not it might be life and death. Something else that I want to mention, and we'll stay here for just a minute because there's a few things that we can learn in this episode. There's a deception of the depth of water when you're flying, and just like anything else, I don't know how many of you have been flying and you just think, oh, it looks like that's only maybe a quarter, an eighth of a mile from here to there. So I'm just going to land in this field and then I'll hike out. If something happens like that, especially it happens all the time with free flying, we'll go on an adventure, we'll go over the back and we'll just end up in some random place and no more thermals. It's time to go down. Let's find a place to land. And we think, okay, I'm going to try to put myself close to the road, but you don't realize many of times how far things really are when you're on foot. Todd mentioned something. Todd, can you mention what you were talking about with the snowmobile thing? You're on mute, by the way.
When I was a kid, my father had snowmobiles for a while. We lived in the north suburban Chicago area. And I remember a pamphlet about riding on the trail system that warned if you rode out into the wilderness at trail speed for an hour, you couldn't walk that distance back if your machine broke down, if you were alone in an entire day. And, when it's sub-zero or sub-freezing anyways, that's going to put most people to a physical task they might not have been prepared for when they left the house. You'd mentioned landing out in the desert, and these things go 25 miles an hour, and it's nothing to put in an hour flight, hour and a half flight. And if you're going one way and you're not familiar with the terrain, man, you can be a long ways from help. Long ways from water, long ways from Uber pickup, long ways from cell service.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that later on in the show, actually, because I have some things I wanted to mention. DP donated $20 to Super Chat. Thank you, kind sir. Appreciate you contributing. I sent you an invitation, by the way, DP, if you want to jump on. So we have the float systems that automatically will open up. Just PPG Smoke came out with this U float, and yes, he's a paid sponsor, so it's fine. This is the latest version. So this one obviously is one giant U that goes around your back. The other one is, I believe, two separate pieces. Choose your weapon, but I think it would be better to have at least some kind of flotation. The old school guys used to wear life jackets. So they knew they were going to be going over water. Not a bad idea if you know you're going to be flying over water. Some of the life jackets now are pretty small and concise. I don't know if that's the right word. Kind of hidden, low key. So back to the deception of the depth of the water. A lot of times we'll kind of skirt the edges. We'll fly and we'll say, yeah, you know what? I know I shouldn't be flying over water, but I'm going to get enough altitude that if something happens, I'll just glide across and everything will be fine. Or if I'm going to be downwind, I'll just whip it around and fly downwind and get away from the water and I should be fine. But we don't anticipate, the worst catastrophe of maybe a collapse. I'll share a story real quick. We flew, it was like the third time that I had flown with the guys out here in Otay. And it was kind of a crazy day. And as a matter of fact, that was a day we flew from White Sands and we didn't, a lot of guys didn't fly that day because it was bumpy. The winds were blowing like 10, gusting up to like 15. And that was at like 7 o'clock in the morning. It's kind of a weird day, high pressure. And so we get up and I'm used to flying in bumpy air. And I thought in my mind, I was like, this is fine. This is normal. This is what I feel like when I'm flying all the time. but it was kind of a different day because it was this wasn't thermals. This was like just a kind of rotary, nasty wind coming from around this big mountain range. Anyways, we decided that we're going to fly to the regular route, fly to the regular places that we normally fly. And when we got, this was David Northup and I, we get over the top of we're about 1,000 feet over the lake, and I felt like my wings shot out in front of me and I had to catch it. And then I'm like, gosh, man, this is all rocky. And there's this big valley that kind of pushes the air through. And that's what was causing that turbulence. But anyways, it went through my mind. What if I would have had to throw reserve, if I would have had to make some kind of a correction in that circumstance, I would have been in super deep water. A lot of guys think, well, I'm going to be foot dragging over maybe canal water. And you look and you say, that's about 4 feet deep. If the difference is only a couple feet for your head to be underwater, it doesn't matter. You're still going to drown. And so I was thinking about, how can we be safer pilots? Before the show, I was writing down notes and trying to just ponder, what can we do when it comes to water? So obviously we can put some floats on, be prepared to quickly get out of your harness. Tom Kubat months ago, or maybe a year or so ago, did a video where he took an old frame and he strapped a cinder block to it, and then he jumped into his pool, all strapped in. And that's a video worth going back to look at what he learned from that, and just to get an idea of what it felt like to be strapped to a motor and end up in the water. And so how you respond obviously can be life and death in water situations.
Now that was all simulated, by the way. The Tom Kubat thing, that was a very controlled environment where people could help him if he needed help. So please do not decide you're going to, I think I'm going to do this because I've seen it. No, don't. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the military, they do it with both helicopter pilots and fixed wing pilots. They call that thing the Dilbert Dunker. If you want to see how it worked, there's a real good segment in the movie Officer and a Gentleman of how that thing actually works. And they slide down rails, and when it gets submerged into the water, the whole seat flips upside down. So if you've never done a flip in a pool, I suppose it could be disorientating. But if you grew up around swimming pools, you probably have some familiarity with, okay, big deal, I'm upside down. You got to undo the buckle and push yourself out of the ejection seat further down into the deep water and swim out away from it to get back up to the air. And the military doesn't waste any thought on that. They put every single pilot through that, and then the Air Force even does a thing where they drop those guys out in the Gulf of Mexico and let them float around out there for 4 or 5 hours, and then they go find them and extract them. So it's definitely worth practicing.
Well, I think it's a good thing, but in a controlled environment to where there's a fail safe. If something does go wrong, somebody's there to,
somebody with a rope on that frame to drag you back to shore. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
And there are guys, in the military program, there's guys that can't get through that. They either something happens in their brain, and they, it's one of those bottleneck washout points where, dude's going to find some other job in the military because he couldn't get through the Dilbert Dunker.
Yeah, I talked to a couple guys that got tangled up in buds when they were in that underwater training stuff. And actually I wonder if it was a buddy of mine. He's qualified to go back in. I wonder if he made it this time. But anyways, so these things are critical that we consider when it comes to water landings. You have to think about how radical the spectrum is, that you're foot dragging, and it's epic. I mean, it's just like you're living the dream. You're there, the water, the air, you've got control. You feel, my glider, you understand if you're foot dragging over water where you could potentially go in, you're not a brand new person, right? At least you shouldn't be. If you are doing that, that's pretty wild. But it goes from that to instantaneous, life-changing, death-defying underwater maneuvers. So when I mentioned mentality, we shouldn't be flying along thinking nothing is going to happen to me. Nothing can happen to me. Nothing bad can happen to me. That mentality is a mentality that gets people damaged. It gets gear destroyed. It gets people in the water where they don't want to be. When a motor is going to go out, it's because it's running. We know we're going to have a motor out. It's going to happen. And it's not always, some guy, we were talking the other day, talking about, because my motor is very new. And we go out, I think it was Randy Clark Kent. And he was like, yeah, it's really nice nowadays. These motors are very reliable. But back in the day, not so much. So you were constantly flying looking for an out. And I say I'm still programmed as a free flight pilot to be always looking for an out. It's just my nature of 4 years of flying free flight. It's just automatic programming. But there are times when I'm thinking like, oof, gosh, if this thing went down right now, oh, that would be just bad. And I'll tell you, there's many situations, many times that I'm flying with a motor and I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, not now, please, not now. And it can happen. A brand new motor, Gringo had pull start issues. There's people that have had belt issues. These are new motors, just things. It's a machinery. It's destined to have some issues. And David Wolf had a question. He said, has anyone ever been choked out by their flotation? He quoted David Ruff during an SIV, felt like he was choking when they were pulling him in after his reserve toss. That brings me to to think about something that I heard the other day. A guy was being drugged through the water by his reserve. A gust front came in while they were doing the SIV. And I think this was at Lake Berryessa. And that happens every once in a while, especially in the summer. And he ended up getting dragged by his glider for a while before the boat ended up catching up with him. And so there are things that happen. And that's what it was. He was telling me that his glider, so his reserve is in the water, his reserve is out of the water and his glider is in the water. And the glider actually was scooping water as his reserve was pulling him back. I know this is a very rare situation, but it was pulling him under. And so that thing was like a giant scoop. So he had to think about how he could get out of that situation, in which I would say you could probably unhook one of your carabiners if you were so inclined to think that fast. Get yourself away from the glider. Who cares about your glider? Who cares about your motor? You're in the water. Get away from it. Don't try to save it.
At that point, though, you've got a lot of G forces on the lines themselves from the water. The flow of the water is creating a pressure and a pull. And then you've got the wind creating another pressure and pull. So that's under a lot of tension. I mean, even just on the drop, let alone the water and the pulling. I don't know if you'd be able to unclip, because that does require pulling, the riser. But even then, that's a split second.
You've got lines to try and pull and reach for to defuse the glider. I think. And most likely you're being dragged face down. So do you flip over onto your back? These are obviously a lot of things you got to think about before the situation actually happens, and practice some muscle memory.
Yep, exactly. Something should be. Again, this goes back to a mentality. If you have a mentality like, I'm going to go foot drag the lake today, we should also have a mentality that says, I'm going to be prepared to be a Navy SEAL right now and escape death.
What about a program, a self-initiated program of just hands-on all of your safety gear every year or so? I know I've been carrying around a hook knife in my fishing vest that everybody likes to make fun of me for wearing for years. And right now, sitting here, I don't know exactly which pocket it's in.
I thought it was pretty cool.
So, I mean, in almost all technical activity, whether you're doing underwater welding on a offshore drilling rig or aviation, there is usually some requirement for hands on the safety gear at a given time interval. Maybe unpack that stuff and make sure it's all still viable, that the handle hasn't cracked off your knife, or that the blade hasn't rusted to the point where it wouldn't even cut a piece of paper, let alone through your Kevlar lines. Your flotation gear, get that stuff out, and check those wafers in there, freshen up the CO2 cartridges, make sure that they're in date. Maybe deploy one of them, make sure that thing still holds water. And how many of us put that flotation on and never take it off? What you got there, Rob?
Yeah, I was just looking at this is what came with the U float, 33 gram CO2 filled. Doesn't look like it has a date on there, but yeah, this is
cartridge, Robert. It's the cartridge that gets activated by the water. That's the part that you actually.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
well. That's the one you want to make sure that's up to date. As long as that seal's not broken, then that air in there's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I saw some recent videos of guys. High moisture made them pop. It's pretty funny. Just walking down the beach, and
the brand that I have has manual pull tabs in addition to the auto deployers, and I usually tuck those in the Velcro so that they don't inadvertently get tangled in my lines and stuff. But I never take that thing off of my rig. But if I'm going to fly in the vicinity of water, and note, I didn't say over water because I just really don't. Maybe at the beach when I'm taking off, that's about it. I put those things out so that the pull tabs are hanging at the bottom of the little Velcro package that holds the whole container with the rolled up flotation and the device. I let those dangle on water flights.
Something else.
I'm sorry, real quick. Again, a quick one back onto muscle memory. Something, since I started wearing a reserve, I mean, I literally, every time I take off and fly, I practice. I put my hand down and I practice. I want to feel where it's at. So I would think obviously the same thing is for your flotation. You want to practice where that button is, where that cord is or whatever. And also obviously you've got technically five connectors for your harness, practicing where those are going to be, unclipped and so forth. And like some people mentioned, some of those clips don't open up under pressure. So you got to be free of the pressure before, especially like the leg straps, before you can release them. So, and then you still have the two shoulder straps to get out of.
Yeah.
Practice that in the air.
The other thing that was brought up, Big Tex just mentioned this, every single one of the flotation systems with the paramotor caused the pilot to go face down into the water. It's forcing your head down into the water. Same thing happens with the free flight harnesses. It's forcing your head and nose, and you're right here, and it's pushing you down. So you're having to try to keep your head up and also flailing. So consider that when you're in the water, the lines are not going to react the same way that they do in the air, where you kind of brush your hand across it and it's like, no, whatever, get out of my way. You have gravity kind of pulling him in a direction and you just step away from him. When you're swimming, now your lines become like,
I like your hair,
floating things just trying to grab you. And there's like this attaching that happens. And by the way, if you go and read, it's kind of a sobering thing to do, but the United States Hang Gliding and Paragliding Association puts out the annual deaths and how the people have died in these different glider sports or hang gliding sports. And most of them are in water situations. And so you're getting tangled up in your glider. You're getting tangled up in your lines and you don't realize it. You're kicking your feet and all of a sudden now your feet are tangled and now you have no propulsion to get your head above the water. You're underwater. And somebody mentioned in the chat, I can't remember who it was, I'm going to go back. I want to mention this person because that was a good comment. They said hook knife. Who was that? Anyways, sorry, you know who you are. Yeah, but good point to have a hook knife. I have a hook knife in my setup. I plan on so I haven't done it yet, but I plan on sewing my hook knife into the side of my harness that would be used for acro, because it seems like that's where you're going to most likely need to use that. A hook knife in an underwater situation could save your life if you knew how to get a hold of it. Like Todd was saying, do you know where your stuff is? Do you know where to reach? I mean, most guys barely know how to reach for their reserve, but could you, without being able to see, without being able to really feel it like you normally would underwater, maybe you've got gloves on or something, think about all the things that have to happen for you to get out of your harness. I mean, it takes me a few seconds after I land and I'm kind of, gloating in whatever glory of having a great flight, to disconnect everything and just to get out to go use the bathroom or whatever. Can you imagine that however long that takes, hold your breath that long and now, complicate it. So the water situation it's not a fun one. Let's spin the wheel and let's give something away tonight.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
What we need to do tonight? We need to give away some. Let's have PPG Smoke give something away today.
No more names, because I got the names all filled up here. So, all right, here we go.
While we're waiting, I just want to point out that Todd is broadcasting from the only prison in space right now.
Outer space.
You ready, Robert?
Yep.
Woohoo!
There's 58 people watching. You have a good chance of winning tonight. What are they going to win? Tonight, you're going to win. Oh, gosh, Ryan's going to be so mad.
Just reach back there and grab it.
Yeah, Ryan Roberts. Ryan Roberts is going to give away a U-float system tonight.
Very suiting. Very, very suiting. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. No, Ryan Roberts.
Ryan Roberts.
PPG
Thank
Smoke.
You.
The website is ppgsmoke.com, by the way. Go check that out. And also you can get your name in the big giveaways, giving away a motor, a couple of them, by buying the Unity headset. So winner, chicken dinner. Here we go. Oh my gosh. It might be Nick Fasakis. Oh, it's going to be right on the line.
It's going to be close. It's going to be real close. I don't even know.
Must be present to win.
It's Joe Morton. Wow. Joe Morton, congratulations. Winner, chicken dinner. Please reach out to me. Oh my gosh. Hot Buttered Steve's donated $10 to the super chat. He said, I picked a bad week to stop sniffing glue. That is the best comment I've seen in a while. Joe Morton, congratulations. Winner, chicken dinner. You won a float system from PPG Smoke. Ryan doesn't even know.
Now you said there was 2 spins. Is that
so this spin it's a little bit weird because not everybody's going to be interested in getting the video. So you have to have nominated someone. So we have to kind of change that. So we might do that next week.
That's a good idea.
I don't know if you're in the comments, if you can mention somebody that you want to, maybe somebody that you want to give that video to, or if you want to if you're that person that you're like, I'm the guy that needs to watch that, I want that video, just mention that in the chat, and we'll put those names down. If one of you guys can write those down. There's 61 people watching now.
Yeah.
Okay, we give something away and a couple people jump on. It's fantastic. Okay, so let's kind of shift gears here, unless there was anything else that I missed on the water, hitting the water. I felt like that was all that I wanted to kind of touch on. Want to fly. He's a newbie. Okay.
I avoid water like the Black Plague. Like literally, like that's the first thing I think of. Water, Black Plague, stay away. And it works for me.
It's not great for your
tempting.
gear.
This time of year, though, it's so tempting. I mean,
there's
boats out everywhere. I mean, I live the South Carolina place is on the lake, and we get these evenings where there's not even a whisper of wind, and I just want to go out and cruise around people's docks and wave to neighbors and friends that I've known for years. And I just have to keep telling myself it isn't worth it, because your motor will keep running past all those people. And as soon as you go around the point, nobody will see you go in the drink, and you'll be out there bobbing around on your own with the sunset. It just is not worth it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I just feel like we can't avoid doing the dangerous things. You buy a motorcycle, and within a few years, it's like, I'm going to ride a wheelie. I just want to learn how to, or foot drag. Anthony, still too soon.
Yeah.
Still too soon. Anthony hurt his foot riding his motorcycle. Big rock, big chunk of asphalt he kicked. He was doing like 70.
Something like
I mean, 65.
Yeah, sure.
65.
Listen,
Yeah.
we live on the coast. Back to the water real quick, and I know you want to go on to another subject, but I live 10 minutes from the ocean. San Diego Beach is here, where there's a little sliver of area where we get to fly over the water and stuff. So I've been enjoying and doing a lot more parasurfing, and it is addictive, especially when there's nobody around, and it's in the morning, it's a steady cool breeze and whatever. But I definitely look at those waves, and look at, if I were to go down right now, that'd be a tangled mess, so yeah.
You have to think about the training that's involved. For example, our Navy SEALs, they train right where we fly sometimes, and they're out there literally teaching themselves how to respond to certain situations that they know they're going to be in. And it would be just, they may never use that in actual combat situations, but there's a training that they put themselves through just in case. Why not take yourself through the motions and visualize, even if you don't actually go into the water? Why not visualize, hey, what does it take to actually get out of my glider, and think about just that, going back to that mentality. If you have the mentality of foot drag over water, you should have that mentality of, okay, this is what has to happen instantaneously. As soon as and you're going to get smacked in the face first. You're probably going to gobble up a bunch of water up your nose, in your eyes, in your ears. It's going to be complete disarray. Like Todd was saying, you're underwater now, you're upside down or whatever. Having a mentality to say, this can happen to me, and if I'm doing this, it will happen to me. I need to make this a part of my, if you call it training, I guess, mentally go through the motions. I'm just mentioning these things because I'm hopeful that we can become safer. It has to happen, Yeah, the depth of the water thing too. A lot of guys don't consider how far away from shore they are. Not only are you going to ditch your gear, and who knows how much you spent on it, your life's worth obviously much more, but think about the swim back to shore, which leads me to my next point, your health. And I know this is not a popular topic, and we're talking about a bunch of fat Americans. We're all fluffy. And I'm out of shape. Since I got involved in paragliding, I completely disconnected from cardio and things that I used to do. I've got a gym in my garage, and I used to work out all the time. Nope. If I get an extra moment, something to do with flying. If it's not church, it's flying. And so DP mentioned we should come up with a disaster school. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Well, I like also what Para Orange was doing, where he made some fake reserves to throw out. That was kind of a cool idea. Throw out it's a weight bag with a reserve, just to get the feel of that. Pretty cool idea.
You know what I think? I'm sorry, Robert, but I'm still stuck on the
water
kicking rocks thing. I think Anthony took you literally when you were telling the kids, go kick rocks.
Oh yeah.
And Anthony was like, yeah, kicking rocks, woo! And then next thing you know, he kicked the big rocks. One. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need any screen shares. I know Gringo wants to share.
I
Don't do
know.
it.
I know. He's itching.
I don't want to see it. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the toenail to fall off so I can go fly.
We're just glad
That's
you're
bad.
all right, buddy. You know, just don't kick any more rocks. Don't take Robert like literally, you know.
So back to the health thing. I'll share a quick story. What happened to me? I was flying at Laguna. Laguna is that's big boy flying. It's probably the most big boy flying that we do here in San Diego. And it's high altitude. Usually get up to 10, 15 grand on average out there, and you can fly really far down that range. It's where the desert meets San Diego mountain, so it's probably like 5 grand, 55, maybe 6 at the most. I don't know, but it's high. And I went on glide to get to the next range and did not get up. And it's the next range is called Granite. And that day was about 100 degrees. It was probably a year ago. Landed at the bottom. I had plenty of water, but I didn't realize that my retrieve driver couldn't get back to where I was because what he thought was a road closed or a private road. And so I had to hike all the way out. And some of you probably watched the video I was talking about, the cactus and sharing some of my growing up in the desert thing. And I've grew up in the desert, so I kind of knew what to expect and I wasn't shocked. But that might be shocking to somebody. You land out in the middle of the desert and you've got to walk for a long ways. And not only that, I had my gears 50 pounds, 55 pounds or whatever. And so I had to hike for about an hour and a half just to get to the road where the guys could pick me up. And I ran out of water right at the last second. I knew how far away I was. I was on communication. I had comms. Also, I had my cell phone, and then I had my GPS, which I can send text messages via satellite. Garmin InReach Mini. That's what I use. I encourage you to use it. It's a really good idea. And so, yeah, it's one of those things. Consider your health before you commit to something. We just recently had my last video that I dropped. We flew Painted Gorge, and we had ground support for a paramotor flight. I mean, we're talking like a serious adventure that we're going to fly motors and head into the nether nodes. And we went deep. It's like an hour in and then an hour back. So I don't know how deep we went into there. But anyways, health, being healthy. So free flying, same thing with motors. I encourage you to be more healthy. Do some cardio, do some stuff other than just going out, just, sending yourself to the park. And I know it's not popular. I'm just trying to say things that might help. Could it have been different with somebody who is more healthy? That you go in the water, you're swimming literally for your life, and your health may be the difference on whether or not that you survive. You land out far, and you've got a long way to go. Your health may be a life and death situation. It's convenient right now. You're out of breath just carrying your motor from the back of the car to the spot where you're going to launch from. But then you think, well, if I land out and I'm, a quarter of a mile from the road, how exhausted will you be just from that little stint? Or if you bail out, leave your gear, which many guys won't do it. They refuse. They'll say, I don't care. I'll carry it out if I die carrying it out. But your health is going to make it's a huge factor. And I don't think we've ever discussed that on the show. I was thinking about it this evening because I'm out of shape and I need to do some stuff. Me and my wife started walking, and we're going to, take it to the next level. I went and did some free flying, just some hike and flies, so I could carry my gear up to the top. Normally I just 4x up, and I've been hiking up recently. So
gives you a good practice run for, when you're practicing, when you land, have your emergency out, always have an emergency out, and look for a road, look for the nearest road to that emergency out. Is that a good pick or is that not a good pick? Because a 5-mile walk compared to, 20 yards,
Yeah, consider your outs. By the way, the show is brought to you by American Allied Drains and Plumbing. If you are in the San Diego area and you're in need of plumbing, American Allied Drains and Plumbing is your company. Mention Paragliding Talk. You'll get a 10% discount on your services. Their phone number is 844-777-9055. Also, the show is brought to you by Nebraska PPG. You see this shirt he sent me? This is a Nebraska PPG paramotor. I don't know what they call these, but it's got a bunch of sponsors on it. American flag. Just realize that American flag's on backwards. Resurgence PPG, and then it's even got my name on the back, Michael's.
That's
Super
nice.
stoked about it.
Where'd you get that? I know. I want one.
Yeah.
What's that? What's that, Josh?
Hey. Josh sent this. I don't know. I don't know where he's at.
That stings a little bit. Oh.
Yeah, you need one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing is amazing.
Why not? I'd look good in that. It's blue, man.
Yeah. They're not cheap though. I think they're like $70 each.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My
now I see why you didn't send me one.
Yeah. Not cheap. Also, this show is brought to you by iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding. If you're interested in flying paramotors, no better place to get proper training than iflyindiana.com. Kevin and his team will get your feet off the ground. Also, this show is brought to you by Lone Star Paramotor. If you're in the Lone Star state of Texas, you can reach out to Ron Turan and his team for world-class training. That's LoneStarParamotor.com. Also, the show is brought to you by Torrey Pines Glatterport. If you want to learn how to free fly, the most beautiful place in the United States, reach out to Max Marion or any one of the guys at flytorrey.com. That's FLYTORREY.com. Let me see if people trolling me in the chat.
So health, huh? You know, I read a social media post this morning about someone that tore their calf muscle, and they were going to have to transition from foot launch into riding around on one of those trikes.
Mm.
And you know, I never see the guys I fly with. Nobody ever stretches before we go running.
Oh, good point.
I mean, I try to, but I mean, you know, nobody does it. You know, we show up, lay our gear out, and if the wind is right, you don't even walk, like you said. Next thing you know, you're running full speed. I mean, a little simple calisthenics and stretching might prevent injuries.
That is a great point.
Yeah. It only takes one injury, like say your ankle or your knee or your hip, and it can affect later on down the road how you handle, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention the weight of your gear is going to be a factor in your enjoyment, especially during a situation we're going to land out. I've got a bunch of crap in my motor. I got 2 spark plugs in my little pouch that's underneath my seat. I don't need 2, but I like to have something in case there is a motor out situation and it's just a spark plug. A fouled plug can ground you. Chances of that happening mid-flight, it happens. Probably the most convenient thing that you can have happen while you're flying is that situation. So having an extra one's a good idea. And then I have one of the Para Orange products. What are they called? The
cinch sack or the
it's
bag.
It's a
Wing
what do they call that when they vacuum seal? It's in a vacuum bag, so it's really small, really tiny, and it just fits underneath the seat. I got one for Gringo, so we both have one. They don't weigh very much, but it'd be nice to have to carry your stuff out if you have a motor out. So weight of your gear, the size of your gear, and then we mentioned this already, but having some water. I know that we're always worried about our weight. We're like, oh, you know what? I didn't fill my gas tank all the way up because I didn't want that extra 2 pounds or whatever it is. And we're always thinking about our weight on launch. It's you know, push pull. It's like you do want to have plenty of gas to go on a long cross country, but then you also don't want to have that weight during the launch that might cause you to botch your launch.
So, something I do as far as fuel, gasoline, right? You put X amount in. I carry with me 1 serving that will equal to that will be mixed with 1 gallon of gas. So I bring in a little extra oil in one little container and then leave it under my seat. So if you land out because which I have due to lack of proper gas, fill. Maybe I had a hole in the tank. I don't know, but you can at least. It's easy to find gas, right? Everybody's got gas. Someone can siphon gas if they need to, but not everybody really carries your 2-stroke oil. So
yeah,
a little bit of oil.
And if you do that, make sure that it's sealed so you don't have a runny butt.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, weight. And so bringing some water, sometimes you're like, I'm not going to bring any water because I don't want any extra weight, but it's a really good idea, especially since we're in the summer. It's a good idea to get it together, bring some water with you. And then, which leads me to talk about communications. And I know we're almost out of time, but I want to mention you should always have at least 2 means of communication. I use 3. I use a cell phone, my 2-way radio, and then also my Garmin InReach Mini. And the Garmin InReach Mini, we're thinking like, you know what, it's kind of expensive. You buy the Garmin InReach is like $299 for the device, and then you have to pay $15 per month for the subscription. There are more expensive subscriptions, but this gives you 5 free text messages per month that you can use via satellite in case you land somewhere where there's no service. And I want to just say that the moment that you need that thing, and let's say you had a hard landing, you broke your ankle, and you're in a place where you're not going to get out easy. Especially with broken limbs, you're going to have to get a helicopter lift out of there. That SOS button will save your life. And whatever you paid, even if you spent your whole life paying for that service, that right there is worth it. And so I remember Stephen Nowak, he said, I think you're worth it. Buy good stuff. I think you're worth it. Buy good gear, new gear. I think you're worth it. And I always take that into consideration. It's a good thing. Have a backup plan for communication. Something I notice a lot of guys don't even know what channel they're on before you fly. If you're flying with buddies, what channel are you on? What channel are you on? Every time we fly, we always get on the same channel. We have this. We want to make sure that we're all on the same comms. With free flight, especially, it's important. Motors, obviously, it's important too. But when I'm free flying, I'm like, hey, are we going to go over the back? Let's do this, or let's stay here. Or I got here to El Cap. This just happened on what was it? Monday. We got up. We got plenty of altitude at Blossom. We went to El Cap, and it was blowing north. So guess what? That meant we were in the lee. We were in the rotor side of the mountain, and it was gnarly. And I mean, at one point I was like, I'm going to land in the valley. I'm not putting up with this. This is insane. But I caught one lee side thermal, got up, poked through the inversion, and somehow got back. But it was gnarly. I let everybody know. I got on radio. I'm like, hey, don't come over here. It's nasty. It's north. And I looked at my, once again, this was a mistake I made. I didn't check the active weather deal. It was south. The wind was blowing south at launch. And then when I crossed the valley to El Cap, guess what? It was north. It was blowing over the back. It was a lee side situation. Brutal. Yeah. So have some kind of idea what you're going to do if you land out. Who was it that mentioned having your phone? I think it was Nick Vasakis mentioned have your stuff charged up. Phone, have maybe a backup plan on how you're going to charge your stuff. I have this little device.
Carry a backup battery with you. You never know when you need that backup battery because your phone winds up dead.
Yeah.
And you got a problem.
I got this little guy. It was just a little deal from I don't know, these guys Uller. I guess they make rings that you can monitor your sleep or whatever. So they were advertising with this. This is a 10,000 was that mega ohms?
Milliamp hour.
Milliamp hour.
Yeah. That's what it is.
They call it Ma.
This one is yeah, anyways, super cool. This one will charge your phone without actually touching it. So you can wirelessly charge. But anyways, I keep this with me in my my free flying gear. We did a little fly in camp, and that came in really nice because my phone was almost dead by the end of the night, and then I charged overnight, and then woke up in the morning, had full battery. So consider that. And then that was pretty much it. Was there questions that came up in the chat? I saw some good comments. A good habit of practice with fuel is to redline the 1 hour mark. When you see the sloshing around the red line, it's time to land. I don't ever fly past that line. It's not good for the engine to run. Yeah, that's a good point.
I have mine marked, but I seem to have passed it a couple times.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know some guys have the electronic sensors. By the way, I want to mention Resurgence PPG, show sponsored by Resurgence PPG. And if you're interested in supporting our men and women in uniform, you can make a tax-deductible donation to resurgenceppg.com. That's their website. And by donating, you're supporting those who have put their lives on the line for your freedom. Reach out to Todd Scandrett at resurgencepppg.com. Support our men and women of uniform. It's an awesome thing. Really like those guys.
Resurgence. You see that, Craig? Robert's been practicing.
Yeah. That's right. Skills on display.
He's proud of you. I know he developed a tear there. Like, he did so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Send me one. What am I? Mom wants something. Send me one. What do you want, Mom? One of these. You want one of these little chargers? Is that what you're talking about? I don't even know where you get one of those. Several battery backup systems available. Yeah. Yeah, you never know, man. Obviously, you need to make sure you have a cord, charging cord. It's a good idea to have that. Mm-hmm. Yep. Great.
Somebody mentioned obviously a strobe, which can act as a
beacon,
stress signal or something. And you had brought up that little battery pack. I have lights on my cage, and they actually charge. They run by USB. Plug it into that battery pack. So we fly mostly mornings, but sometimes in the afternoon when we fly, we leave at 5 o'clock, 5:30 or whatever. Sunsets at 7:30, 8 o'clock or whatever. I definitely make sure I travel with that battery pack, because if I land out somewhere in the shrubs or wherever, it's hard to see. In 20 minutes, it's past dark. It's nice to be able to turn that puppy on and get located.
Yeah, that darkness is dangerous. I mean, if imagine you're in a tree.
Oh, yeah.
I just had a buddy come visit, and his one comment was, "I can't believe how big the trees are here."
Yeah.
And when I know I'm going to fly in a situation like I'm going to cross a large span of trees, I take a strand of 60-foot climb line with me, so I can maybe at least get close to the big branches and climb down out of the tree. I take a figure-8 descender with me, and then I usually, if I go flatland flying, I ditch that stuff so I don't have to carry around the weight, and I look for something else. What's appropriate for the risks that you're going to accept for safety gear.
You've probably heard us mention before, you can bring a roll of dental floss, and that's a very lightweight solution to, if you do land in a tree, you can lower that down to your buddy who's got a rope. That you can use that to pull the rope up, and then use it to get yourself out of that tree if you need it. Yeah. Also, you could probably use it to, if maybe they don't have a rope, you can, if they've got water or something they want to give you, you're stuck in there for a while. It was
Does impending darkness ever make anybody think twice? This is what happens to me sometimes. I get out and I go, well, I'm not having the best night. I'm mentally not on my game, or I blew a launch I wasn't planning on, or somebody stops to talk and it just encroaches a little bit too tightly to sunset and eventual darkness. If you're going to have a problem, the time to have it is at 9 a.m, not
exactly
26 minutes before sunset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, Matthew Pesci and a few other people have mentioned a whistle. I don't know if a lot of people realize too, most of our harnesses, the little strap that goes the highest, that doesn't really do a whole lot. Maybe it's just a mental thing, but that little red piece on the end is actually a whistle. So a lot of pre-flight gear, I think, have those as well.
And if you're a P3 and you're flying at Torrey Pines, you have to have one.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's 1 hour. We're going to go to the after show. Really appreciate everybody, all your contributions to the show, all the supporters on Patreon and PayPal. You keep the show going. So really appreciate you. And I want to just encourage you, invite new people to watch the show. I'm not talking about just random people. I'm talking about new pilots, people that are just now getting into the sport, that are wanting to learn. Share the information that you learn on here with your friends. Pass along this. We want to be safe. I feel like our show is a way that we can have fun and learn some stuff that makes you safer. Sometimes you get bored. I can, we can watch the video. We can watch the YouTube videos and learn from those to a point. But you kind of get burnt on it. But I feel like when we're live on the show and you have questions, maybe you can ask those questions live. You can learn stuff on here. And so share these videos with your friends that are pilots and learn something. We're going to go to the after show. Thank you so much. Anthony Peregringo. Thank you. Todd Falstad for coming on. Sean Nafsker, Nick Vasakis. Appreciate what you guys do. And also all the moderators that are in the chat taking care of stuff. Ripman Riding. Thank you for what you do every week on the show. Appreciate all the comments, all the questions. You guys are awesome. We're going to go to the after show. Put your email in the description. We'll send you an invitation to jump on the after show. And so if I don't see you on the air, I'll see you in the air.